All right, good evening, everybody. Sorry for the car shuffle there. Um, how many are brand new to Parks on the Air? Couple. How many of you have worked a Parks on the Air station as a chaser? Some more. How many have activated? Yeah, another handful. Okay, good. Um, I fell down the Parks on the Air rabbit hole about 7 years ago, and I'm still in it. Having a lot of fun with Parks on the Air. So thank you for the opportunity tonight to talk about it. We'll have some fun. Before I get into it, my clicker is working. There we go. Just a little background on myself. In 1992, I earned my Technician Plus ham radio license. And those of you that were around back then, do you remember what the Tech Plus was? 5 words per minute, right? It was probably the last time I copied 5 words per minute. um, that was a busy year for me. I graduated high school, got a full-time job, started going to school at night and on the weekends. Not a lot of radio time. So in between then and 2013, I was in and out of radio, but I came back, upgraded to general 21 years later. I was really involved in satellites at the time. That really kind of piqued my interest, got me back into radio. In 2016, I moved my wife and my daughter out to Thousand Oaks, and I came home from, I don't know if I was at work or I don't know where I was. Came home one night soon after we'd moved out here, and my wife says, "Hey, there was some guys parked down at the end of the street. They had radios. They were wearing yellow vests. Radio communications on this." So I stopped and talked to them. I'm like, "What? You talked to them?" She goes, "Yeah, they're in ham radio." And she knew I was in ham radio, and she said, "I got the business card for you." So she handed me the business card, and that led to me joining CVARC soon after. That business card belonged to Rob Hansen, if he's here. There he is, Rob. So thank you for being nice to my wife. So that kind of generated some more interest in radio for me. In 2020, I discovered Parks on the Air, and I was on HF doing more radio that year than I had done in the last 15 years, probably. Really, really got me going back into radio. 2022, I upgraded to extra 30 years later. And somewhere in here, I also became involved with the club too. I became the secretary for CVARC and been having a lot of fun doing that. Earlier this year, I got my vanity call sign. I had always wanted a 1x2, so it took me a long time to get it, but I finally got there. And that last point, just between Parks on the Air for me and the enthusiasm that everybody in this club has for radio, it just keeps me going, and I really have a lot of fun. So thank you guys for being so enthusiastic and having as much fun with radio as you do. That helps me get going. And then my last point here, kind of, that whole timeline is just to say, don't wait. If you guys just got your license, you're interested in upgrading, just go for it. Carve the time to do it. 30 plus years later, I'm glad I did it, but could have done it a lot sooner. So tonight, talk about high level what POTA is all about, uh, why it should matter to you, why you should care. We'll talk about how you can get started either chasing or activating for those of you that haven't done it, what a POTA contact looks like, how do you find a park to do Parks on the Air, because not every park is a POTA park. We'll talk about some of the logging requirements. I'll touch on digital and CW specifically for POTA. And throughout all this, I'll talk about the POTA website because that's where a lot of the action is for things like logging and spotting and such. And then I've got some pictures and a couple of videos to share with you too. And then I'll hit questions at the end, but if you guys have any questions in the meantime, just raise your hand. We'll stop and talk about it. Okay, so Parks on the Air was born out of a year-long event that the ARRL put on in 2016. It was National Parks on the Air. People went out, activated at national parks. It wasn't every park. It was a very limited subset of the parks. But it proved to be so popular that a group of hams wanted to keep it going. And that developed into what we know as Parks on the Air today. And it's just a handful of people that did this. I think the original core that started it was just 3 or 4 guys. Um, so what we know as Parks on the Air today started out of that. And this whole program provides I call it a structure and a framework for people who want to go do portable operation. And it gives them, uh, with the POTA program, there's some rules, there's things about logging, there's ways to get credit for your contacts and everything. So it kind of puts a framework around just instead of just going out and calling CQ on the radio. The whole thing is run by volunteers. It's a nonprofit organization. They're registered 501(c)(3), just like CVARC is. And I mentioned the parks. Not every park is a POTA park, and that's true. So what parks am I talking about? It's designated state and province parks, and also national and federal parks. In the United States, there's 18,000, US and Canada in the POTA program. 87,000 total parks globally are recognized in the POTA program. And, oh, let me close that window. There you go. Thanks, James. And then as I mentioned, it's not city parks. It's the designated POTA parks. So we do radio down at Dos Vientos, Dover Hendricks, some of the other CVARC events. We're doing parks, or doing radio in the parks, but it's not Parks on the Air. So unfortunately. There we go. So how do you know if a park is part of POTA? Each park that registers in the system gets a unique identifier. We call it a park number. In the United States, those park numbers start with US. Canada, they start with CA. It's the country code. It hasn't always been like this. They used K for United States parks up until just a few years ago, and just kind of random letters for each country. So they aligned with the ISO standard that talks about 2-digit or 2-letter characters for country codes. A couple definitions to be aware of. When we talk about an activator, I'm talking about the ham that's sitting in the park with their radio equipment making contacts. If you hear about a chaser or a hunter, those are interchangeable words. That's the person making a contact with the activator that's in the park. And the chaser or the hunter, they could be in a park too. They don't have to be out of the park. And that's kind of a special thing called a park-to-park contact. If you do that, we'll talk about that too. All of this is glued together on the POTA website. I call it the hub for all of the activity. That's where we do spotting. That's where we upload our logs to. You'll get awards and a lot of statistics, which is really cool for me because I'm a stats guy. And this is all at parksontheair.com, and we'll dive into a little bit more of those in detail. So this graph shows the total number of QSOs by year that have been going through the POTA program. Kicked off in 2016. You'll see it stayed kind of consistent for a few years. And then in 2019, it started about doubling every year and has been up until recently. 2025, over 15 million QSOs in the POTA program. And this year on pace to hit about 16 million. So probably won't double this year, but we'll see. So why should you care? Why should you do POTA? This is a list I came up with. There's probably more reasons, some that I missed. Um, Number one, it's easy to get into. You probably already have the radio equipment to do POTA. If you have any radio equipment at all, it can do POTA. So there's a low barrier to entry. It's easy to get into. I know a lot of folks here are interested in emergency communications. This is a great way to take your equipment, set it up in a park, practice for setting up for an emergency. This gives you a chance to experiment too. You can try out different antennas, you can try out different radios, you can try different settings on your radios, different power levels on your radio. You can try out different ways to do logging, different logging programs. And one thing that I've always found really fascinating as you're sitting there in a park doing radio over the course of a couple hours is how the propagation changes. And you can see in real time how certain bands go to sleep, they'll come alive. The QSB fading will come in and be really bad, and then all of a sudden it'll go away and you can hear everybody. Propagation is a really interesting thing, and you get to really see it real time when you're at a park. You can practice your radio skills. I know the net operators here talk about this a lot, right? Handling doubles, handling weak signals, which isn't really a problem on a repeater. But if you got people calling you in a park, sometimes it's hard to hear them and you have to ask them to repeat themselves or you miss part of the call. So it's a certain skill set to be able to extract that information and be able to understand and hear that information. Yes, yes. Yeah, yeah, yeah. So question from Norm is an advantage of POTA the fact that you can just drive up to it? And the answer is yes, absolutely. I have a slide that will compare POTA and SOTA a little bit, and that's one of the points. And I think that gets into the barrier of entry. You don't have to hike up a mountain. You can just drive up and you can actually do POTA from inside your car too. So running a pileup, that's a lot of fun for people in radio, especially if you're chasing a DX station, you're usually in the pileup trying to call the DX station and get them to hear you. The cool thing about POTA is that you're usually the one that people want to talk to. So you're going to have multiple people calling you. It's not unusual to have three, four, maybe even more people calling you at the same time. So it's an unusual radio circumstance to have that. So it's something that POTA gives you. And it gives you a chance to practice pulling call signs out of that mix and figuring out who you want to talk to and working all of them before they go away. Lower noise level. At my house, I've got horrendous noise. I've got a special problem with the power company right now that's making it worse. Uh, but what I can hear on a normal time or night at my house compared to what I hear at a park, night and day difference. I can hear signals at the park that I don't hear at home. So it's really nice to enjoy that lower noise floor. Um, I say sometimes because sometimes you'll go to a park and there'll be somebody in the campground running a super noisy generator, or they'll have some piece of electronic equipment running that just splatters everywhere. And I've had that happen to me more than once. And it's frustrating because you're there because it's supposed to be quiet and it's not. Or somebody will pull a noisy old car into the parking lot, and while the car is running, you're wiped out on HF. So there are awards and achievements involved. The POTA website automatically will generate these awards for you, and we'll look at those in a little bit more detail. This, of course, gets you outside. You get to see places that maybe you wouldn't have gone to or thought to go, but you're there for radio. I know that's happened to me recently. Last few years, when my family and I plan vacations, one of the things I do is check the POTA map and see what's around. And we've been going to Hawaii the last few years, and I've been bringing radio equipment with me and trying to hit as many parks as I can. And then the last point, the POTA community, the people that are doing POTA, are really active. Everybody's very friendly. Everybody loves to share what they're doing. They love to teach others. And if you can get exposed to that, whether it's social media or even folks here or even the surrounding clubs to talk about POTA, it's just, it's a great community to be a part of. So if that convinced you to take another step forward, um, you basically have a choice to make. Do you want to be a chaser or do you want to be an activator? And I promise this is the only AI slide I have in this presentation. And this is what you get if you ask, I think, either Chat or Gemini, to give me a visual representation of somebody making a decision to be a chaser or an activator. And this is what it came up with. Not, not too far off. But let's start with a chaser, because that's a little bit easier, a little bit less to it. So the first thing I would want you to do if you want to chase POTA is go to the Parks on the Air website and create a free account. I said this is the hub where everything is. You need to have a POTA account to really do anything. And when you get there and you have your account set up, one thing you can do is go to the spotting page that's part of POTA, and it'll tell you in real time who is on the air right now doing a park activation. And this screenshot, I think this has a laser on it. Yeah, this screenshot is the spotting page. and it seems like it's a little blurry, but for here, this is W3NY, and he's at Park 0072, and it tells me the state. Looks like it's Michigan, Massachusetts. I don't know, it's too blurry up close. Anyway, it tells me the frequency he's on, who spotted, and the last time he was heard. And then it tells me the mode and the frequency, which I mentioned. And you can filter this too. Like if you don't care about voice, you just want to hear CW, you can go up to the top filter, show me all the CW people that are on the air right now. So this is a great way to figure out who's on the air right now if you want to go try and chase a POTA station. So you can do that, or you can just spin the dial on your radio and go find somebody, listen for somebody calling CQ, and that's either voice or somebody calling CQ on CW, or digital too, and we'll talk about that. And all you have to do is when you hear him or her, when there's a break, just put your call sign out there. And if and when they hear you, they're going to acknowledge you and give you a signal report. And I'll say, this is K6KH. And the activator, whoever it is at the park, will come back and say, K6KH, you're 5-5 into the park. And maybe they'll tell me the park number, maybe they won't. Doesn't really matter at that point, because I probably know the park that they're in from the spotting page. So when they do that, I'll give them a signal report. And I'll say, hey, you're 5-9 in California. You sound great. Thank you. And that's it. That's a POTA contact. Super easy. The exchange, we say, is very short and it's very predictable. And that, I think, helps a lot of people who maybe are, I don't know, mic shy or nervous to get into Parks on the Air. You're not getting into a long QSO or something you have to deal with. It's just a quick signal report and you're done. And you don't have to do anything as far as the log goes either. It's up to the activator to submit the log. When the activator does that, you as the chaser will automatically get credit for talking to that operator and also talking to that park. And you'll get that credit in the Parks on the Air website. And you need to have the account to do that. So for those of you that have made contacts with a POTA station, and maybe you didn't sign up for a POTA account, go do it, because you may find that you have credit and you may find that you have awards sitting there waiting for you. You just haven't logged on to get it. And that's that last point. Check the website for credit and awards. Okay, I don't know if this is going to work. So when I go out and do POTA, over the years I have filmed myself with my phone, and the thought was to maybe do videos and stuff and put them on YouTube, and I never did any of that, but I still have a lot of the videos. So this is a quick, I think, 1-minute clip of me doing I was sitting in my car down off of Potrero inside the Santa Monica Rec area doing a POTA activation. Somebody else was doing an activation and I called them as a chaser. So let me see if this will play and if you can hear it. So that's the POTA station calling CQ.
Yeah, he's really loud, so I'm going to let him call CQ one more time, and then I'm going to call him back.
CQ POTA from Kilo India 5, Golf Bravo Quebec, calling CQ, Parks on the Air. This is Kilo India 5, Golf Bravo Quebec, calling CQ, Parks on the Air, and standing by.
Park to park.
Park to park, go ahead.
Thank you. Your park to park is Kilo 6 Kilo Hotel.
Roger, copy the Kilo 6 Kilo Hotel. I got you 5-9 in Park, US 4517 in New Mexico. Back to you.
QSL copied 4517. You've got a great signal here in Southern California at Park.
Uh-oh. All right, well, I won't try and find where that stopped. But anyway, you get the idea. Okay, any questions about chasing so far? Everybody okay with me? Go ahead. It's a good, so the question is how many, in my experience, how many of the people that are doing POTA are uploading to QRZ or Logbook of the World or any other logging program? Sounds like QRZ is tough. I think some people do it. It's probably a low percentage. Uh, Logbook of the World, I think, is a lot higher percentage. I would say maybe 50% in my experience. Um, I think the people that are into POTA, though, it's a very high percentage of people that upload their logs when they do an activation. It's a good question. I don't know what the percentage is, but I would have to guess it's probably at least 80 to 90%. Does that answer the question? And it's not, QRZ and Logbook of the World, it's not just POTA, right? It's anytime you talk to somebody, contesting or even just regular QSOs, you're going to want to put that in Logbook of the World or QRZ. So, okay, so let's move on to activating and some things you need to do to prepare for an activation. So the first thing you need to do is have an idea of what park you want to go to. And there's some mapping tools that can help with that, and we'll talk about that. You need to have a good idea of what you want to do for your, what I call the station footprint. When you get there, and to Norm's point, and you drive up, do you want to unpack and sit at a park bench? Is there picnic tables there? Do you want to operate there? Do you want to bring your own table and chairs? Do you want to sit in your car and just put your radio on the chair and do it from there? Or do you want to put some radio gear in a backpack and hike into the park? So you have to kind of have an idea of what you have in mind. And that may also help you decide what park to go to, because some parks may not have picnic benches. Same with the antenna. You need to think about, the park you're at, what's the space that's available? Are there trees around? Can you put wires in the tree? Is there space to run radials if you're doing a vertical antenna? Is there going to be people walking around? Is it limited space? Do I need to worry about creating a trip hazard if I put antenna wire out or coax? And then your operating position too. If you've got a 50-foot piece of coax, you don't want to go further than that, right? So something else you just kind of have to conceptualize in your mind and what this is going to look like for you. The other thing is specific to the park that you're going to head to. Do some research on that park. If it's a new park, make sure you understand what the boundaries of the park look like. Not as important if you're going to drive in, because you're pretty safe to be in the park if you have to go through a gate. But if you're hiking into a park and you're coming in on the backside or something strange, you need to make sure you're in the boundary of the park if you're going to try and do an activation. You also want to understand, if there is a gate, what time it opens and closes too. You don't want that gate getting locked on you. And then some parks have entry fees too. So it's just something to be aware of. You may have to plan to pay for that when you come through the gate. Be aware of the park rules. Some parks have quiet hours. So if you're in the campground doing activations, nobody probably wants to listen to your CW or FT8 sounds at midnight. Some parks, and I'm not aware of this as much around here, but I know parks in probably the Midwest, down in the South, they do not allow you to put anything in the tree, and they don't allow you to penetrate the ground. Brian? Okay. Yeah, that makes sense. The ground penetration too is a big one. No stakes in the ground. So whatever you bring for an antenna, it has to sit on the ground. You can't drive a stake in to pin it down. Just hit the X on it, James. There you go. And then the last one, just check the weather forecast. Don't get caught in a thunderstorm or some weird thing that you weren't anticipating. And that kind of goes with just being prepared. And, if it's going to be a hot day, bring water, bring sunscreen, all the common sense stuff. Solar conditions too is another interesting one. I would never tell you not to go out and do radio because of a bad solar forecast. Because I think what you'll find is that even in the worst forecast, you're going to make some really cool contacts, and a lot of them are going to be unexpected. So it's good to know if there's a solar storm going or expected, but don't let that stop you from doing radio. Go ahead, Ryan. Yeah, yeah, yeah. So thank you, Ryan. That's a good point. So Ryan's comment was just be respectful also to law enforcement. And I think that includes the park rangers too, right? Because um, when I first started doing this, park rangers were stopping by to see what I was doing. And, you just be friendly and explain, and, they'll leave you alone. I was only kicked out of one park, and that was in the Santa Monica Mountains at, trying to remember where it was. I think it was the Peter Strauss Museum area. I had just pulled up and I was undoing a roll of coax and radials in the parking lot. And he appeared out of nowhere, jumped out. Hey, what are you doing? I said, hey, I'm a ham radio operator. Introduced myself. I said, I'm just preparing. I'm going to be here for a little bit. I'm going to do some radio. He said, you can't do that here. I said, okay. I'm not going to argue with him. So I packed up and got out of there. Go ahead, James.
I was just gonna say, like every, I don't know, time Ham's in the public or whatever, public eye, you have to kind of think of yourself as an ambassador of ham radio, and all it takes is one bad comment, you could spoil it for everybody. So
Absolutely.
turn it the other way and try and always present a good image and be cooperative. Exactly.
Yeah, and I've got that on another slide too. Be an ambassador and promote ham radio. Go ahead, Houston. Yep. Yeah. Yeah. So the question from Houston, is there a way to find out information about a park that you're interested in on whether what other park activators have done, including things like pictures and coordinates? Um, Kind of a partial answer on the park list on Parks on the Air. There's a spot where people have put in information about specific things. Uh, Maybe this spot has a shaded picnic area that you can use. Are we in trouble? Um, I know Soda has like what I'm trying to think of. I know there's the reflector, the email reflector, Groups IO. POTA has that too. So there are places where people share the information, but there's nothing really centralized, maybe like you're thinking. So it's a combination of different information sources. That answer? Yeah, okay. That picture was one of the parks in Hawaii that had all that information, park hours and everything too. So fit well here. So back to finding a park to activate. This map is on the Parks on the Air website. You can do it by state, you can do it by country. Here I selected California and then I zoomed into Southern California. Every yellow dot on the map is a POTA park. Okay, so you can look at this and kind of check in your general area to see what's around, or if there's a place you're traveling to, you can see what's there. If you click on a yellow dot, you get this box that pops up that has the name of the park and the park number. Okay, and then if you click on the box that says more info, you get more info. And this kind of gets into what you're talking about, Houston. This is kind of hard to read, but it gives coordinates, Latin Lounge. It gives a link to the park website, which is where you can find out a lot of things like the rules, hours for the park, entry fees and stuff. It tells you whether or not the park is active. That's an important one. When we had the fires, a lot of the parks and the forests were shut down and you couldn't get to the parks, and you could come here and see that they were inactive. So you know ahead of time if a park is not available. It will also tell you when the park was first activated, and it gives you some statistics. I can point here. That may be too blurry to see, but it tells you how many times the park has been activated and how many times somebody attempted to activate the park. Usually two different numbers. The bottom section here, this is the park leaders. So this is, and that's probably John. I don't know if John's here tonight. NS6X, he is the park leader right now for the number of activations at this is Santa Monica Mountain Recreation Area. Then he has the highest number of QSOs too. and I'm number two, way, way behind them. And then here under activations, this just shows you the recent activations, the date, the call sign, and then whether they did CW, data, or voice. And then if you click on one of the call signs, it'll give you a profile for that person. And this, for example, for me, it just shows that I've got 118 activations at 27 parks, 4,500 QSOs, and some other information here. So it's kind of interesting if you're, looking at the park list to see who's been around recently, and you click on somebody, it gives you some information. Go ahead, John. Mhm. There's no limit. You, so an activation runs in a Zulu time day. Okay. So any any more than 10 contacts during that 24-hour period is one activation. Okay, so you can activate one park during that day. Now you can go to multiple parks and activate multiple parks in that same 24-hour period. Okay. Talk to John about that. That's how John got to that high number. He's there a lot. John's not here, is he? Okay. Yeah, go ahead, Bob. Yes. Um, I'm thinking of San Buenaventura State Beach out in Ventura. I've been out there. There's a couple places you can activate there. They have some picnic tables and a grass area that's really nice, but when there's people there, there's a lot of people there. So it's not a good place to set up. If you go into the parking lot, there's two different parking lots. If you go into the back parking lot, it's pretty empty. And I've activated back there. So, uh, yeah, go ahead. I have not been there. No. Has anybody been to that park? Yeah, where's Encino? So there's a lot of people doing web development, software development. It's not just out of the Parks on the Air program. M0TRT created this map, and this scrapes data from the POTA website. And this kind of gets into what you're talking about, Houston. This shows a map of all the parks in Southern California, but it also scrapes the Parks on the Air website and color codes the parks for the ones that I've activated. So if I look at this, everything that's green, I've been to and activated. Everything that's yellow, I haven't been to. Okay, so it kind of gives me an idea where I need to go. This also works for soda too. Pretty cool. And then also word on the street is that this is on the development roadmap for Parks on the Air. They're going to enhance their mapping to do the same thing. So to talk a little bit more specifically about the parks, so the Santa Monica Mountain National Rec Area is according to Wiki, and if Mike can hear me, he can probably check me on this, but it's the largest urban park in the world, I believe. And it's in our backyard. It's a massive park, and we have the luxury of being right next to it. And it's so big, in fact, that other parks fit inside that park. Okay. Malibu Creek State Park is a good example. I love that park. I have done a lot of activations there. And when you do that, they call it a twofer. It's a park within a park. And as an activator, you get credit for activating both parks at the same time with the same contact. Okay. Same for the chaser that's talking to you. If you upload your log, and we'll talk about the logging a little bit, but you're going to give the chasers credit for talking to both parks at the same time. So Malibu Creek State Park, Topanga, Leo Carrillo, Point Magoo, Will Rogers, those are all within the Santa Monica Mountain Rec Area Park. Okay, so those are all twofers. Santa Susana up off the 118, Kind of tough to find a place to activate there. But it's a close by. And then I mentioned San Buenaventura, beautiful beach and great place to activate too. This is a map of the Santa Monica rec area just to give you an idea, and it's kind of hard to tell with the shading, but basically it's oops, kind of the green outline here. And I've never been up into the northern extension of it here, but this is all. If you're anywhere within the green, you're within the park, and you can do an activation from wherever you are. And yeah, 240 square miles. It's massive. Yes. And there's some soda. There's some soda peaks in there too. Yeah. Yeah, Annie? Hmm. Hmm. Yeah. Just anywhere within. An example, I used to go, and I still do, to Paramount Ranch. Paramount Ranch is not a POTA park itself, but it's a beautiful location, and it's got a ton of open space, and it's within Santa Monica, the rec area. So it's a great place to activate from. Um, I think the Peter Strauss Ranch, that's the one I got thrown out of by the ranger. But yeah, there's a lot of places that you can probably find to activate from. Yeah, and to be honest, the people that do POTA, big reason is because they can't or don't want to hike, right? Like the soda people do, much more active. So a lot of drive up activations in POTA for sure. Wanted to mention an option that's available. So the California library system has state park passes that you can check out. They have passes here at the TO library. So if you're going to a park that has an entrance fee, you can check out the pass and use that to get in the park. And then just this week, they announced the Historian Passport, which is another group of park passes that are being made available. And it's a smaller list. It's only good for about 30 parks. And Keith and I were talking about it. I think Will Rogers is one of the parks on that list. So another option to save a couple bucks on the entry.
Comment?
Ah, go ahead. That was from Zoom.
Yeah, Craig, it's Mike. Hey, I did want to make one comment about the Santa Monica Mountains and all the state parks that are in there. The Santa Monica Mountains, and this is kind of controversial, has a very large legislative boundary. And within that boundary, the National Park Service has purchased properties like Circle X Ranch, Paramount Ranch, Peter Strauss Ranch, Rancho Sierra Vista. Those are all like patchwork quilt pieces of property. And then, of course, there's private property within there, the state parks and county parks. So my understanding is if you are in a state park, you're not actually on federal land. So it's not technically a twofer, but I mean, I'm not going to make a big deal about it, but that's the way I understand it. On the other hand, the Angeles National Forest and the San Gabriel Mountains, I think it's National Recreation Area. It was just created a few years ago. Those do technically overlap, so that's one of your twofers. But these state parks within the National Park Service legislative boundary, in my opinion, really don't qualify for a twofer. So
Okay.
that's the
Well,
way I understand it. Yep.
that's good info, Mike.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. You would know more than anybody. Uh, and Houston's raising his hand back here too. Go ahead, Houston. I use Ham Alert too. Yeah. Yeah, Ham Alert is an app that you can put on your phone that scrapes spotting information from POTA and SOTA, and I think maybe a few others too. But you can go in and customize it to alert you if a call sign that you are interested in is active and has been spotted. So on mine, I have, some of you guys that do a lot of SOTA, I have you in my phone, and you're right, it buzzes all the time for AJ6CL. And Mike, I think, who was it today? Somebody was out today. Mike was out today. I couldn't hear him, unfortunately, but I knew he was there, and I tried. Yeah, yeah. Is there another? Daphne, go ahead. Yeah, you're right. You can spot yourself in POTA, and SOTA too. Thank you, Keith. Um, and I think I've got a slide to talk about spotting a little bit more too. Um, but yeah, and it's a big reason that people will come talk to you too, because I've been doing POTA and just calling CQ for a long time with nobody. And then I go spot myself, and boom, here's everybody looking for me. So people sit there and watch the spotting and wait for people that they can hear. It's interesting. Okay, go ahead, Ryan. No. Yeah. Yeah, so Ryan, so just for Zoom, Ryan's comment is that you can have more than a twofer, and there are parks out there that overlap and intersect, and it can create a three-fer or a four-fer or a five, on and on. And I've made contact with those people, and yeah, they claim to be in 5 parks, trail systems that are within, I don't know. I'm not going to challenge anybody on it. Mike's already challenged me on the twofer, so. And I appreciate that, Mike. Thank you. We need people that actually have true park knowledge involved and not just radio people.
I'm not challenging. I'm just giving my opinion.
Okay, so once you have decided where you want to go, you need to get your equipment list together and start packing up, right? And I highly recommend using a checklist. It's very easy to get out there and realize you forgot something. Ask me how I know. Um, yeah. Same thing with the batteries. Charge your batteries the night before. It seems like such a simple thing, but it's easy to overlook. I have run batteries all week long doing satellite contacts and then threw it in my bag to go do POTA. And then after a couple of contacts, my battery dies. And I went, oh, crap. I've been using that battery all week and I didn't charge it. So yeah, just simple stuff, but don't overlook a checklist. It's really simple, and you might think you don't need it, but it helps. Um, there's no right or wrong for the equipment that you bring. Whatever you have, whatever you want to try is the right equipment. Nobody's going to tell you you're doing something wrong. It's whatever you want to do, however you want to do it, and you're going to learn what works, what doesn't work. You're going to want to try different stuff, and that's kind of why we do this. It's fun. Once you get there and you start setting up, one of the things you have to decide is what band and mode you want to be on, right? In the month of May, last month, there were 38,000 activations in the POTA system. 12,000 parks were activated in the month of May. Over 1 million QSOs last month, and over half of them were on 20-meter phone. So it's a pretty interesting stat. What that tells me too is that there's not a lot of technicians doing POTA. And that's tough because you're limited to 10 meters, you're limited to VHF, UHF. That doesn't mean you shouldn't try it. And especially if we can get some, and I know there's a lot of people doing VHF and UHF, and 10 meters is getting tough right now, but if you guys go out and attempt to do POTA as a technician and VHF, just let us know. Get on the repeater and tell people. We'll make contacts with you. And a lot of people will love to do it. Yeah. On the left or the right? The left is 40 meters. Yeah. Yeah, and then an even split between data and phone. Data is typically FT8 or sometimes FT4. You can do any data mode you want, but will you get a contact? Will somebody answer you? Probably a higher chance if you're using FT8. So that gives you a little frame of reference. Again, you can do what you want. It's your activation. The bands are yours to do with what you want. So this is a typical contact, and you kind of saw that when I played the other video, but basically I'm going to call CQ. I'm going to mention the park number I'm at. Somebody's going to come back to me. I used Ron as an example here. I'll come back and I'll tell Ron he's 5'9" into the park, and then Ron's going to tell me I'm 5'5", because I don't think Ron ever gives anybody a 5'9". He always gives people actual signal reports, which is really cool. And then I'll say thank you and move on. And it's a quick, predictable exchange. It doesn't have to be a long exchange. You can make it what you want. You can ask questions. You can tell people about, whatever you're looking at, your park. It's up to you. The signal report and telling people what state you're in, it's totally optional. It's not required by the logging system to put in a signal report, but it's just a thing that people do. Gives you a piece of information to exchange. Yeah. Hi, Bill. Did you have a question, Bill Hughes? You can unmute your mic and talk to us or put it into chat. Click on chat there. We're going to look in chat here, Bill, and see what. And then can you scroll down, James? Okay, please repeat the question for those who are on Zoom. Okay, all right. Try and be better about that. Go. So the question is, if I'm setting up at Paramount Ranch, what antenna would I use? I have used several antennas there. I have, and I'll have pictures. I'll show you guys. I've used a mag mount on top of the car, and then activated within the car because it gets brutally hot out there. So depending on the time of year, I have a vertical antenna. I brought my Wolf River coil. I brought that. I've set it up there, and I've also set up a big fiberglass pole with an end-fed wire out there. The times I've been, it hasn't been crowded. I know, like when the Western town was there, it drew a lot more people, but the parking area is massive, right? So you can park away from everybody and set up. So does that answer? You could. There's space out there to do it. If you park away from the main parking area and pull up against kind of the brush line, you could put a dipole up. Yeah, yeah. And I've put up my end fed. I run it up to 30-foot mast, and I run it as an inverted V, and it's a 10 to 80 end fed, so it's 130 feet. So it goes out quite a ways. And as long as you stay on the brush line, you're usually out of harm's way for somebody walking into it or driving into it. Okay, let's see if this one works too. This is another video I did. This is me doing an activation. If this works.
All right, I just spotted myself on the POTA website, so we'll see if that helps. CQ Parks on the air, CQ POTA, Kilo 6, Kilo Hotel, Kilo 6, Kilo Hotel, calling CQ Parks on the air.
Kilo India 5, Tango
Okay, there was a few of you there. I heard a park to park. Let me take the Kilo India 5 first. The Kilo India 5, go ahead.
Kilo India 5 Delta Alpha Yankee KI 5 BAY.
Okay, Kilo India 5 Delta Alpha Yankee. Thank you. I've got you about a 5-5 here into Park US 0648 in Southern California.
QSL 54 Oklahoma.
Okay, thank you for the 5-4 from Oklahoma. I appreciate the call, 73. Okay, the park to park, go ahead.
Victor Alpha 7 Tango November Romeo.
Okay, Victor Alpha 7 Tango November Romeo. Did I get that right?
QSL, I have you 5-4 into Charlie Alpha 3487 QSL.
Okay, copied the 5-4 into Charlie Alpha 3487. Thank you. I've got you 5-1 here into US 0648 in Southern California.
QSL, thank you for being out there, Craig. Have fun today, 7-3.
Okay, thanks for the park to park and have fun, 73.
So that's 2 POTA contacts back to back. So again, pretty quick and short, sweet, predictable. Couple more things to know here about activation. So the goal, if you will, is to get 10 contacts within your, it's a 24-hour period, the Zulu day. That ends at, depending on the time of year, right now it ends at 5 o'clock in the afternoon. So you want to get your 10 before 5 o'clock. And if you're sitting at the park and you don't have 10 and it becomes 5 o'clock, your activation is over. And you start a new day and you're starting a second activation. You can use that to your advantage though, because if you give yourself enough time to get 10 before 5 o'clock, you can turn around and work all of those same people again after 5 o'clock, and that's a second activation. Okay. That's another video I did where I showed up at like 4:30 and I was racing to get 10 contacts, and I was stuck at 9 for the last several minutes, and I turned 5 o'clock and I was still sitting at 9. It was fun. Expect the unexpected. You're going to have equipment failures. You're going to get out there. You're going to have cable failures. You're going to have batteries die on you. You're going to forget, stuff you forgot. You may not even get going in your activation. This is more, I'm talking about kind of in the middle of your activation. You're going to get interference. You're going to get QSB. The band conditions are going to change on you. All of a sudden, people are going to fade away. You're not going to hear anybody. It happens in the middle of the contact. You'll hear them call you really loud, and you'll read their call sign back, and then they're just gone. But they can sometimes still hear you. It's really interesting. The interference I talked about, and then the interruptions. People are going to walk up to you and ask you what you're doing. It happens all the time. It's part of it. But this is where we get into, James mentioned this, I'll talk about it on another slide here, but this is your chance to talk about ham radio, promote it, educate people. Don't let people walk away thinking you're a strange guy sitting in the park doing something you probably are not supposed to be doing. And it's your, I mentioned this earlier, it's your activation. So you can do this however you want to do it. And that is in terms of equipment. It's in terms of your actual activation and what you're doing on the radio. You can just call CQ and let people respond to you at randomly. If you're running a pileup, you can separate people and do by numbered call areas and say, okay, if there's any 1 stations, if there's any 2 stations, if there's any mobile stations, if there's any QRP stations, whatever you can come up with, however you want to do it, that's okay because it's your activation. All right, still with me? All right, a couple more things. Spotting, if you're calling CQ and nobody is answering, get yourself spotted. You can spot yourself. You can have somebody spot you for you. If somebody hears you, they may do that without you even asking. But as soon as you get spotted, you're going to get traffic coming at you. You're going to get contacts all of a sudden. The code of conduct, there's a DX code of conduct out there. ARRL has a version of this also from the Amateur Radio Union. I won't get into that, but it's a suggested thing that you take a look at and try and respect it and follow it. It's got some really good suggestions on how to conduct yourself on the radio. I've got a slide. If we have a few minutes at the end, I'll leave it up. You guys can take a look at it, but I won't spend time diving into it. We talked about the opportunity to educate and promote ham radio. I have flyers that I keep with me. I brought a bunch if you guys want to take a look, but I offer these to anybody that I talk to. That flyer is available on the Parks on the Air website. I customized it. I put a CVARC sticker on the back, and I think it even has the address for the board net. I was giving those away at one of the board net events. James mentioned being an ambassador. You know, this is your chance to really be the face for ham radio when somebody's talking to you and asking you what you're doing. People are going to remember you. If you're the person that was sitting in the park doing something unusual and they thought it was unusual enough to come up and ask you about it, that's going to stick with them. So remember that, because it's a good chance to make a good impression and promote the hobby. When you're done, leave no trace. Clean up after yourself. Don't make a mess. You shouldn't have to say this. This is the kind of thing that triggers people to get upset about the ham radio operators if they come in and destroy foliage, you know, trees, leave trash and everything. So don't do that. And then when you're done, submit your log to the POTA website. Even if you don't get 10 contacts, the POTA community calls that a failed activation if it's less than 10. I strongly disagree with the word fail. I think anybody who takes the time to plan and pack their equipment and go to a park and set up and attempt it, certainly not a failure. Whether or not you make radio contacts, I think, is just a bonus. Buckingham Palace is calling. Houston, go ahead. Mm-hmm.
We'd love to hear anybody like reach out to send me an email.
Yeah, so Houston's talking about his dad is going to be doing a soda activation tomorrow, and the fact that you can have soda summits within parks. And yeah, I think I mentioned that too. Soda POTA, yeah. No. Oh, yeah, go ahead.
I wanted to get some of the flyers that Craig has mentioned.
But hold on, Bill. Is that, wait, okay, I'm getting voices mixed up.
Bill's on Zoom.
Okay. Go ahead, Bill. Bill in the room. Mr.
Yeah,
Wilcox.
I wanted to get some of those flyers. If Bob at K6KH could bring them to me.
Lighthouse is on the air too. Yeah, and that's Santa Cruz Island, right? Okay. Okay.
Who am I talking with?
So Bill Wilcox in the room here is talking about the islands that overlap with POTA and not SOTA, but islands on the air. What was the other one you mentioned, Bill? Parks on the air. And you can do all lighthouses on the air. So you can do all these different entities from the same location. And Bill Hughes, we've got flyers we've got flyers coming to you through Bob Hughes.
Okay, thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Bye.
One other comment, Craig.
Yeah, go ahead, Mike.
Yeah, the about the failed activations. I don't like that term either, but even if you don't get your 10, make sure that you log them, because a lot of those people that are hunting are counting on those contacts for their hunter log as well. So even if you don't get 10, they're counting on those contacts as well.
Yeah, I agree. So if you get at least one contact, upload it.
Yep.
And it's a failed activation, but you're still giving credit to the folks that you did contact. So strike the word fail from your POTA vocabulary. Dan, you've got your hand up in Zoom. Go ahead.
Yeah, great presentation. So how many different on-the-air schemes, I guess they're called, are there? I see that the first was summits in like 2002, and then I guess we had parks in 2016 or 17, and islands, I guess, was in
Yeah,
there.
there's a lot of I say X on the air. There's Walmart parking lots on the air. I know that's one of them. Yeah, no, it's a real thing. Yeah.
So how does one go about starting a on-the-air scheme?
How do you start it? You start it. Get some like-minded folks together and just do it.
All
There's
right.
there's nobody gonna tell you can't do it, right?
Oh, the other question is on your 1x2 call. Did you have a lot of choices to get that nice call?
I lucked out with that call sign. I was going after a 1x2 that started with kilo, and they're very few and far between. So I waited a long time. I had applied for a few other 1x2s that started with K, and you get put into a lottery system, and I did not come up a winner on those, but this one I did. So just pure luck.
All right, 73.
Thank you. Okay, we'll talk about logging. So the Parks on the Air website requires you to provide a file format that is the ADIF format. And it's basically just a text file, but it has a certain, I guess you would say, format to the characters, right, in the fields. Pretty much every logging software that I'm aware of will export an ADIF file for you. So you don't have to worry about all the details of how it's formatted. I listed some of the popular ones there. This is not all of them. There's a lot of logging programs out there, and I think they all will export ADIF. But when you're done, you want to take that export and you upload it into the POTA website. I mentioned earlier that the required exchange on a POTA contact, you can ask whatever you want, you can log whatever you want, but all you're required to submit in your log is your station, the call that you worked, the date and time you did it, and the band and mode that you did it. And then that will provide credit to everybody who needs it. Optionally, you can record the park number, but the POTA system will automatically calculate park to park. So if I do a park to park contact and I upload my log, that other activator uploads their log, it will match it in the system. We'll both get credit for it. I put it in my log just because I like to have it as a backup, and I upload my log to another master log too. So I like to have that record.
Need some help, please.
Oh. Okay, thank you. Go ahead, Johnny. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So the question from Johnny is just about the altitude of your antenna, and that gets into things like takeoff angles. Does altitude in your park position have any advantage to being sea level or by the water? It's not an easy answer because there's so many variables, right? It's the type of antenna you're using. Is it a vertical versus a wire? Takeoff angle for the antenna. Band conditions certainly play a role into that. I've activated at the beach. Hawaii, I've been on the beach in the sand, and I wouldn't say that the water was helping me. I wished it would have. But bands are weird in Hawaii. That's a totally separate conversation. So I don't know if that answered your question, but you just got to get out and try stuff, right? That's part of it. This is just to give you an idea. This is one of the logging programs. This is a free and open source program called Polo. I use this occasionally. I have this on my phone. This is an activation that I did when I was in Hawaii. You'll recognize a couple call signs on that list. But one of the cool things that it does is it gives you this map. So in real time, it'll create this map of where your QSOs are. So not that you need it for POTA, but it's just something to be aware of that a lot of people are doing. Yeah. There's also the idea of just doing a paper log. I do a lot of paper logs when I do POTA. I just enjoy writing call signs out by hand. You have to transcribe this, so you have to get it into the ADA format to get it into the POTA site. Yes, you can yeah, they have a manual entry option on the POTA website where you can type in the individual contact. The POTA website has a paper form that you can use. You can create your own template. I just scratched it out in a notebook. One thing I've been experimenting with is if you take a picture of your log and you put it into ChatGPT or Gemini, it will create an ADA file for you. It's not 100% accurate. It sometimes has a hard time reading my writing. A little training and correction, and then I've got an ADA file from my handwritten log. So it's kind of cool. Yeah. Yeah, Ryan's saying some of the folks from the 60s are taking their paper logs and running them through AI to get them into a digital format. Yeah. When you're doing multiple operators or multiple parks, we talked a little bit about, one of the things you can do is activate with a club call sign. So if we went out as a CVARC club to do a POTA activation, we could use Alpha Alpha 6 Charlie Victor, and the operator that is using that call sign would also get credit for the contact. So you get credit to the club and also credit to the operator. And we've done that. We've done CVARC activations at, I think, probably some of the BoardNet events. I activated Alpha Alpha 6 Charlie Victor. I put some folks from the club on the air, and they both got credit for it. If you do what we call pass the mic, so if you and a buddy go out and you both activate, and you make a contact and you say, stand by for the second operator, and you hand the microphone to your buddy and let them make a contact, you're both doing separate activations. You both have to submit a log. Okay, you can't combine that. The twofers that we talked about, I won't get into anything more than two. You do have to submit a separate log for each park that you're claiming that you're activating. So if you're doing one of the parks within a park, if I do a Malibu Creek activation, I need to submit a log specifically for US 1169 Malibu Creek, and then I have to, and the easiest way to do that is just do a copy of the log, and then you can do a find and replace for the park number. And you've got an identical log, just the park number is different. You upload both of them into POTA, and then it gives credit for both parks. On the flip side of that, if you're a chaser and somebody tells you that, hey, I'm activating two parks, you don't have to do this, but it's good to put in two entries into your log, one for each park, because generally logs don't have a way to accommodate multiple park numbers on a single line. If you're overlapping with other radio events, contests, or SOTA, you can still submit your log for parks on the air. All of those contacts for the contest or SOTA will still contact for your parks on the air, but you still should submit a log for that other event too. So if it's a contest or SOTA, whatever that is. And then I mentioned that I keep my own kind of master log. So when I go out and do parks on the air, I'll come home, and when I upload my log to POTA, I will also upload that log into my master log, so I have everything in one place. And that in blue, that just gives you, in the ADA format, that gives you an idea of what the format looks like. So the operator, my call sign, the station call sign, though, is the club call sign. That's how we give credit to both. Couple comments here. So people that are doing FT8 for POTA, this person's calling CQ POTA in their call sign and their grid square. What park are they in? No idea. FT8 doesn't have a mechanism to share park numbers. Okay, so it's a mystery to me as a chaser what park they're in. I'm still going to answer them. I'm still going to give them a contact. This happened recently too. I monitor 6-meter FT8 during the summertime. W7ML was calling CQ POTA from DM04. I knew it was close by. I didn't know what park they were at. I was curious, so I went to the POTA spotting page, and I found the call sign. W7ML was in 1169, which is Malibu Creek State Park. So now I know where he was. Doesn't matter. I still made the contact, and he's still going to upload his log, and I'm going to get credit for talking to that park. Go ahead, Ryan.
But also grid tracker. That'll pull down all the POTA spots from a pretty regular basis, and it will tell you in the grid what parts are activated.
Yeah.
Within the duplicate period, so if you can cheat them again that data frame.
Yeah, and so Ryan's talking about some external programs, POTA and Grid Tracker, and there's other people that are writing software to kind of fill some of these gaps to help out with this information. That list is constantly growing. There's always new stuff. POTA's a pretty cool program. I've looked at it. Maybe a future talk on that for you, Ryan. Okay, CW. I think, and I'm just trying to get back into CW, so CW guys can tell me. I think the park exchange for CW is pretty standard also. You're calling CQ, somebody answers you, you give them a signal report, their RST report. You might tell them the park number. You don't have to, because it's going to be in my log that I submit anyway. I don't know. Martin, does that look right to you? I've tried to do some CW at POTA recently, and the chasers come back so fast, my head explodes. So I'm working on it. Awards. So I mentioned that the Parks on the Air website will automatically generate awards for you, and that's based on the logs that get uploaded. So you as a chaser, if you go in, you will find there are PDF files that are awards waiting for you. This is an example of an early award that you get. This is what they call the bronze certificate. And this is for submitting proof of working 10 unique reference areas, and the Parks on the Air program is a hunter. So I worked 10 parks, and they gave me this award. Okay. Bill Hughes, do you have a question? We see your hand up in Zoom. You can unmute yourself, or you can put it in the chat. All right, well, if you do have a question, just come off mute and feel free to interrupt. So just more on awards. So if you log in to my account, all of these boxes are all different awards. There's a ton of awards. They give awards for everything. They give awards at different increments too. So like that 10 park award I got another one for 20, and I get another one for 50, I get another one for 100. So they increment the awards, but then there's all sorts of different scenarios. I won't try and go through all of those, but get on your Parks on the Air account and check it out.
Bill Hughes has no question at this time.
Okay, thank you, Bill. Yeah. Yeah. So the question is, do people go after rare parks as a chaser? And I think the answer is yes, because there's people that sit on the radio all day and they watch the spotting page and they look for parks that they have not worked. And I hear that a lot. I don't think Santa Monica Mountain Rec is a rare park, but I get people thanking me all the time, hey, thanks for the new park. So yeah, it matters to people. You'll hear the term late shift and early shift with Parks on the Air, and basically all that means is you're there late at night, 3 a.m., or early in the morning, 3 a.m. to 9 a.m., or late at night from 7 p.m. to 3 a.m. It doesn't mean anything except it's another award you get. And I think that's a really cool looking award with a Milky Way picture. Kilo Award is very coveted. This is 1,000 contacts from a park as an activator. I got that at Santa Monica Mountain. I've hit it a couple times. John has hit it many, many, many times. That's something you'll hear people talk about as they're going for their kilo. The website has lots of statistics. I'm a baseball guy partially because I love all the statistics that are tracked in baseball. POTA has a lot of statistics too. This shows me that I've activated from 2 states, California and Hawaii, And on the bottom here, these are all the states that I've worked as a hunter, so I'm missing 5. More statistics. This tells me, and these are just screenshots from my profile. In Hawaii, I've done 5 activations with 9 attempts. So I had 4 failed activations. Not supposed to say failed. And then here in the US, I've had 113 out of 117 at 18 unique parks. And then it tells me the bands and the modes that I've activated. And I'm primarily 20-meter phone, like that other 50% we saw. I started to build a slide to kind of represent all of the choices for radios and antennas and everything, and it quickly became pointless because there are just so many. So I almost deleted this slide. But the idea is there's a lot of choices out there, right? A quick plug for Mastodon. Does anybody not know what Mastodon is? Mastodon is a distributed social media platform that is not owned by any company or corporation. Okay, it's owned by the people that run the servers or people like us, and it's all federated. There's no algorithm that pushes things on you that you may not want to see. And what you do see in your feed is exactly what you want to see because it is tied to the people that you connect with. So Mastodon for me is all about radio and a little bit about vintage computers and gaming. But it's a good source of information. So if you go on Mastodon, you will see people post, and I just put a couple screenshots on here. Chris posted about his trip. He posted some pictures for his activation. Calvin talks about his POTA fun, his successful activation. He only made 2 contacts, and he had several people that were interested in discussing radio, so he was interrupted. Chris talked about activating the Minuteman National Historic Park with Morse code, some pictures. Joe talks about his NFED and how well 30 meters worked. Jim is very active in CW and POTA. Yeah, this guy's a rock star. And he's talking about his attempt for his 10,000th QSO that apparently failed because he says POTA activations can be like a box of Forrest Gump's chocolates. How are we doing on time? Okay, running out of time. I'll blow through these. This is just a picture of the gear I use, okay? I've settled on the FT891. This is a small portable radio, 100 watts, okay? And I use the vertical antenna mostly for POTA. Drive-up activation in the Santa Monica Mountains. This is a mag mount on top of my truck, laptop and radio inside the car. Picnic table at Malibu Creek State Park, my Wolf River coil antenna out in the field, radio and laptop on the park bench or the picnic table. Paramount Ranch, my 30-foot mast with my wire antenna, which you probably can't see, just running out of the back of the car here. That's an old picture. I don't have lead acid battery anymore, and I don't use a 991 anymore for POTA. Some pictures from Hawaii. I mentioned I always check the POTA maps when we go on vacation now, and I pretty much always drag radio equipment with me. I mentioned experimenting. So one day out at Malibu Creek State Park, I took my mag mount and threw it on the barbecue. Just curious what would happen. I worked 62 stations that afternoon, all over the United States. Yeah. And then, the cake tray. This is at the BoardNet event for random metal objects on the air. Hooked up my wife's dessert tray and made a POTA it wasn't a POTA activation for me, but I talked to a POTA station up at Four Corners Monument. So just try stuff and see what works. POTA to SOTA, so 10 contacts for an activation, 4 for SOTA. You have to submit your logs as an activator. Chasers don't need to do it. You have to do both for SOTA. Your gear for POTA, don't worry about the weight. You're usually just throwing it in the car and going. If you're hiking up a mountain, you're concerned about weight, and you're generally QRP. You have to be within the park boundary for POTA, SOTA. You have to be within the vertical activation zone. And okay to activate from inside your car, but you have to be away from your car for SOTA. If anybody wants to take a picture of this, or I can give you a copy of this slide, this is just a list of links, stuff that we talked about, links to the POTA website, and some of the software we talked about. I don't think we have time to talk about the DX Code of Conduct, but please Google this if you're not familiar with it. It's a fantastic thing to reference. And this is not just for POTA, this is for any radio operation you do. That's it. That's POTA. So I want to ask real quick. So we've kicked around over the last year or so, Martin and I have talked about, I've talked about some others, doing a CVARC POTA event. If we organize that and we went out as a club to do a Parks on the Air activation, is that something, just show of hands, interest? Interest? Okay. Put that on list. Any questions? All right. Thank you, everybody. Appreciate it.